Welcome to BookHuddle. I'm your host, Karen Reader with Readgab. Today, our guest is Saadia Faruqi, and she wrote this incredible, beautiful book called Some of Us Are Brave. And if the title just doesn't resonate with you right there, isn't that just perfect? Some of us are brave. Sometimes we're brave. It's just perfect. I'm excited to talk about it. But first, Sadia, I just am so excited for you because just this week, Sadia won. Huge congrats, the Schneider Family Honor Book Award for The Strongest Heart. I am so
Thank you so
excited for
much.
you. Congratulations. Can we just veer off for just a second and have you tell us about The Strongest Heart?
Sure. Thank you for having me. First of all, I'm excited to chat with you. The Strongest Heart is actually a very personal book. It is a middle grade novel about a boy, Mo, whose father is very severely mentally ill, has an illness called paranoid schizophrenia. And it is basically his struggle being a new kid in a new town with a newly found family and newly found bullies, but also dealing with his dad's intense mental kind of back and forths and having good days and bad days and anger and all of those, and also his mom kind of going off to do a job outside the country and leaving Mo alone with his dad. It's very personal. I grew up like that. Obviously, it says fiction. It's not a memoir, but it still has a lot of my emotions growing up with a father who was mentally ill, and just making it a good story. There are funny parts, there are sad parts, there are angry parts, because I think that there's a lot of mental illness in families, and a lot of times children don't really know how to deal with that. And maybe
Right.
reading a book about something that I went through would help them.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for reading that. And again, congratulations. It was
Thank you.
wonderful. All right, Sadia, can you tell us three things about you that are not about you being an author?
Well, that's hard because everything is all mixed up when we have our
Th-
identity, right?
That is
So
life, right? Writing is
that
life.
is right. Well, I'm a mom. I have two teenagers. My son is in college. He's 19 years old, and my daughter is in high school. She is 16 years old. So if anybody listening or watching is a mom of teenagers, how amazing but also challenging that can be. Let's see. I was born in a country called Pakistan, which is in South Asia, and I lived there for the first 22 years of my life, which is when after that I migrated to the US, and now I lived here more years of my life than in my birth country, which always kind of is strange to me, but that's what
Right?
it is. Third one, I'm a foodie. I love, just going to restaurants. If I'm at a city, I want to try their home
Yes.
cuisine. I'm not very adventurous, but I do appreciate good food, and I'm always willing to, you know, be a little bit adventurous, not
Right.
hugely, but
Okay.
appreciating food and how it's cooked and what it tells us about culture and taste and flavors. That's just so interesting to me.
Oh, love it. I love to eat all the food as well. And I have my
All
different
the food.
all the food at once. Well, probably shouldn't. But yes, me and my
Nice.
friend went once to Lebanese Tavern and we both got different samplers and then we both split each thing in half and it was just like, oh, all the flavors. Oh, I love it. I love it. It was just so perfect. That's me. I really love to try all the different things and all the different, ethnic types of flavors and things.
Yeah. It's smart to kind of order different things and then try everything. So I feel like I would probably do that too.
Okay, we could go out to eat together. All right, I like to do just a little something more to get to know you and base it on a book. And so Allie Millentine writes these books that just touch me so emotionally, and my husband will laugh because I'm just sitting there sobbing as I'm listening to this audiobook, and he's like, "What's that book about?" And I'm like, "A typewriter, a sapient typewriter," or her other one, "A sapient building." And like he just doesn't get it because he's picturing, a building with arms walking around. And I'm like, "No, that's not it. That's not it. You don't get it. They can just communicate. That's all. It's just the thing that they can think and they can communicate."
Yeah.
And it's incredible. So tell us an inanimate object that you would like to communicate with.
I mean, there are so many, but right now I will choose the Statue of Liberty
Oh, nice.
because it has just a huge history. I mean, the fact that I just read recently that it was brought from France to the United States in I don't know how many hundred pieces, and then
Right.
it was assembled. But also just, what it represents to our country and how many things it must have seen since it's been kind of, on its journey
Yes.
from France, and then being this representing so much to so many people. The stories it must have, if you could talk to it and it could tell you about everything that it's seen since it
Right.
was put on there. So I don't know. I think that's kind of cool. That can be, if the Statue of Liberty could talk, what would it tell you?
Ooh, yes. Oh, okay. Then I have a book for you. Let me see if I can find it. Yes. Okay, so Matt Landis writes this fun National Archive Hunters. One of the versions of the Liberty's torch is
I
lost. And
see.
so they're trying to find
Yeah.
out where that torch went and
Nice cover. It's cool
track
with
it
the
down.
sun behind the statue. That's nice.
Yes. And so, yeah, I actually went to the Statue of Liberty for the first time just last fall. It was a lot of fun. That is great. Yeah, there's so many stories that we just don't even think about. And then all the people and all their stories. So much.
Yeah. 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 That's true.
Yes.
Well, I'm a storyteller, so I'm always
Yes.
thinking about all kinds of stories.
Right? Yes. All right. Right now, your story. Some of us are brave. Give us the synopsis. What's it about?
So it's set in 2017 in Southeast Texas when Hurricane Harvey, which was a hugely devastating storm, but also led to flooding in especially Houston and its surrounding areas. That's kind of the time period and the backdrop of it. It's about three kids. There's Yasser, who's a boy who's really into soccer. He's grown up poor, but he thinks soccer is going to be his path out of poverty so he can help his mom and do something with his life. And then there is Mona, who is an artist. Her parents are kind of always, jet setting around in their careers, and so she's often left to fend for herself and her younger brother. And she's just trying to survive and be a responsible daughter. And thirdly, there's Cody, who is a kid who's had a hard life. His dad has PTSD, and there's a lot of abuse going on in the family. And so that is kind of rubbing off on him, where he is also becoming this bullying person to other people, especially to Yasser, who he sees as his competition at soccer. And these three kids who don't know each other, don't really like each other, and are suddenly stuck in the middle of this huge hurricane slash flood, all alone without adults, and they have to kind of fend for themselves but also survive and find some kind of courage and bravery within themselves throughout the story. It's action packed but also I think full of heart.
It's so full of heart. I just love it. And I love the alternating views that we get to see so that we get to see what it's like to be that individual. You know what I mean? Because if we only heard about Cody from Mona and Yasir, then we'd have a very different story.
I believe strongly that, we should be hearing about different kinds of peoples and their experiences. And the best way to know about other people and other ways of living and other traditions and other life experiences is by hearing or reading their stories. So absolutely, I would never want to be a writer who wrote about somebody's experience from an outside perspective,
Right.
because that's never going to be correct.
Right.
It's going to be what other people are looking at you and seeing.
Right? Not fair or accurate. Right. And oh, even with having it from his view, like Cody, he made me so mad, even when it was him, in the moments, and he just touched my heart and I wanted to go save him. And it was
Uh,
such a powerful ride for each one of them. And then to see this huge range of experiences for them, even though they went to the same school, that they had each very, very different lives and very different challenges. This large blanket statement, if you can do it without spoiling your book too much. What does one do when you're forced into a situation in which you must be brave?
I mean, it depends on, are you asking me, Saadia Faruqi, or are you asking how I would write a story? Obviously, this whole story that I've written is about being brave
Right?
when you are scared of something.
Yeah.
So if you read the story, each character is fearful of something, and it's different for all three. Yasser is scared of drowning. Mona is scared of being all alone, and Cody is scared of the dark. And somehow, coincidentally, but really not because I'm the creator of this, so there are no coincidences, all three of those things happen when the power goes out and there are no adults around and their waters are rising and there's just danger in terms of darkness, in terms of being alone, and in terms of possible drowning. So what do you do when you have to be brave? I think you just, there's no choice, I suppose, in especially a situation like this, to just kind of mask some of that fear that you have. And it definitely helps to have others around you. And I think that that was a big part of why I wrote the story and talked about bravery and courage, was because I wanted to acknowledge that we are all scared of something. And sometimes it's little things like spiders, and sometimes it's huge things like heights, and sometimes they don't make sense to other people, but it makes sense to you and it affects how you act and how you react. So being with other people in a community, in a group, so that you can give courage and strength to each other, is a really important part of trying to, face a fear. So that's what I would do. I would find other people and try to kind of soak up somebody's courage and give somebody else my courage and kind of
Nice.
share those feelings.
Love that. Okay, so the next question, these kids are all forced into the situation that it's like, it's time to face your fear because guess what? It is here. No choice right now. You
No
have got
choice.
to. So why would someone, you or you can do hypothetical, choose to be brave if it wasn't forced upon them? What would be the benefit of that?
Mean, a lot of people, myself including, will go through life accepting that this is a thing that I'm scared of because you've never had to really face it and be in that. I give my example to kids. I actually, with this book, along with this book, I'm also speaking to children and families about this topic of bravery and courage. And I share my own, what I'm scared of, because honestly, also admitting that we are scared of something, especially as adults, is very difficult. And it's just, there's so much behind that, right? Society and pressure and how you want to be seen. So I think that talking to kids, talking to other people, the first thing is to acknowledge there's a fear. And I've gotten to that stage of my life. Obviously, I'm not a, as my mom would say, you're not a spring chicken anymore.
Right.
As one of her sayings, which just always makes me laugh, because what's a spring chicken? I don't know.
It's okay.
Um,
We're just in summer
but
now.
right. But I have, lived on this earth long enough to know that even if you're not pushed into something where you have to face a fear, at
Right.
some point, I think it just makes you less to have this thing. For example, I am scared of heights, and it's not a fear that I can really I can just get rid of, because I'm dry, and I'm from Houston. So in Houston we have very high ramps going from one highway to
Yes.
the other. There's a lot of these kind of bridges that are literally like, feet into the air, several feet into the air, and it's scary to be driving on those. And I have been known to just stop driving and freak out because I can't do it. So acknowledging that this is an issue and
Right.
saying, well, I can either never ever drive or I do something about it. I
Yes.
think that, at some point you just have to come to that conclusion, and maybe you don't have to come to that conclusion.
Maybe you
It's,
don't.
it's
I'm afraid of snakes and I'm just not gonna deal with that. But then there are other
right.
things, yeah, that I have had to deal with. And actually, my son was so surprised when we were talking. He and his dad were watching a scary movie, and he said, will you ever watch this with us? And I said, no, I won't. I used to, as a teenager, enjoy scary movies, but then I saw one when I was in college that just scared me for weeks, and I would
Yeah,
sob in fear. Like, I would
I get
seriously
that.
be
I get
trying
that.
to sleep. I would be trying to sleep and I'd be crying in fear. And so now I don't. I said I found my happy place with middle grade spooky books, that I found something that is scary, but I know it will never scare me too much. And he said, I didn't think you were afraid of anything, Mom. And I think it was a really great conversation for him to realize that adults could be scared.
Yeah, yeah. I feel we should talk more about that, to
Yeah.
the young people in our lives, because it makes us look more human, be more
Right.
human. You know, always trying to be perfect and trying to act like once you're an adult, suddenly all your problems are gone is not a really good way to project to young people,
Right.
kids, teenagers. So I'm glad that you had that conversation. And like I said, with my presentations, which I have very aptly named Let's Be Brave Together, that
Nice.
is what I talk about. I'm scared of this. What are you scared of? And it can be something so simple as, never wanting to try a new food. We were talking
Yeah.
about food or snakes. When will you ever meet a snake?
Right.
Incidentally, I will tell you, I lived in Florida for a while, and we were
Oh,
on an apartment on the street level, and a snake just came inside, and we're sitting in our living room, and there's a giant snake in our living room with us, and we freaked out.
oh,
So I don't think we can ever say we'll never ever meet a
oh,
snake.
I've met them.
You have, right? So how do you, I think you shouldn't go through life just protecting yourself from everything,
Right.
because that's just not possible. It just causes more stress. And helping yourself, your family, your kids, your students, people in your life, whatever age they are, to kind of just be gentle and understanding, and help them get over something, it can be good. It can be good for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that is powerful. In the book we talk about baby steps. Sorry, because I'm in the book and I'm experiencing it, Sadia.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yes, we do talk about it.
So,
Baby
can you give
steps.
us an example in your life where you've taken baby steps?
Yeah, so the concept of baby steps is that Mona, the artist who's really scared of something, of being alone, she keeps having nightmares of waking up alone and there's nobody around. She is told given advice by somebody that, just take baby steps towards being braver, and she's trying that. Um, and it's that concept comes from what I have learned. When I wrote The Strongest Heart, a lot I talk about therapy in that as well. I am a big believer in therapy, and for a lot of my childhood trauma, I have for many many years seen a therapist. And one of the things that I learned in therapy was this idea of, I don't think that they say it in like baby steps. It's more, a little bit more professionally explained, but the concept is the same, right? If there's this huge looming fear or worry, more worry is there because it's so huge. But if you break it up into chunks, mentally, you may be able to address it better. And so, kind of just a very non-professional mental health exercise that I've often done in my life as part of my therapy homework. So, like she does, she's kind of like taking little steps she's drawing out her nightmare in her sketchbook to make it a little bit more acceptable to her. Cody, who's afraid of the dark, if there's somebody else with him, or there's his dog with him, or he has a little light in the darkness. It's even if it's moonlight, that's a little baby step towards being in that darkness, but still not feeling panic. So I guess we all have to just understand by ourselves what that baby step would be. And for me, with my heights issue, it is just being a very, very, very slow driver on a big highway with like cars honking behind me.
Right?
And me just being like, I'm just gonna take it slow and not look left and right and try to
Right.
drive once and see what happens. And so I'm not that bad anymore. I'm much
Yeah.
better
You
now
made
than
some
I
baby
used to be.
steps and made some progress, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
when
still prefer
possible,
not to
avoid
drive
that
over
road.
those. Absolutely.
Right. I'd love, because we were just talking about Mona. The huge thing is flood myths. Why did you decide to go with these different flood myths for the story?
Yeah, those were fun. So, Mona is, she's in her nightmares, there's a flood, and she's been hearing stories from her grandmother who recently passed about Noah's flood, which is from the Bible and the Quran. And she is somebody tells her, oh, those are not the only stories. And so she starts being very interested and this like it's like this aha moment where she's like, what, I didn't know this was a thing in many cultures, which a lot of us don't know, that so many flood myths exist in so many different cultures, very ancient stories, folk tales, legends. And that is really cool to me as just a person who loves reading things from history. And so I thought it'd be cool. She's drawing out her nightmare, and then she starts drawing out all these other myths, and she starts reimagining herself in the center of these. So, when she draws the story of Noah, she is there on the ark instead of Noah. When she draws the story of Gilgamesh, she's there instead of the main character from that epic. And it was fun. It was fun. I don't know why I included them. A lot of my writing is just, oh, here's this cool thing I learned. Well, how would it fit in the story? And sometimes it fits very well.
Nice.
And so I continue that.
Nice. Can you tell us about researching these? Was there one in particular that you had to leave out because there just wasn't room that you could tell us about?
I did not want to leave out any, so I made sure there was room.
Nice.
There are many, many myths, and they're like, for example, native stories of these myths of floods and creation. There's so many different ones. So a lot of times, I think the ones I didn't include were the ones that there wasn't a lot of information
Okay.
about, or there wasn't like a full story, because
Right.
you have to have a story. It's like these little stories within the bigger story. And sometimes there's just, oh yes, this culture also believes there was a myth, but you have to have a beginning, you have to have a challenge, you have to have an end, you have to have the struggle.
Yeah.
So as long as I had that, and I could verify that yes, it is indeed from certain scripture or certain, passed down from word to mouth. So I just did a lot of research. I made sure that I was not incorrectly or inaccurately portraying somebody's cultural heritage.
Nice.
But I had fun with it. I don't think I left any big one out. I left maybe just the ones that weren't complete or didn't have a
Okay.
lot of story in them. I just made sure if there, and
Yeah.
it was interesting because one story, I can't remember which one it was, but I read about it later. So I went
Okay.
back and I revised, during
Sounds
revisions,
it's
I
gonna
added
fit.
another chapter and I was like, if she's doing this and they can have this conversation, I could put in this one myth that is
Right.
really cool.
Nice.
So
I love that answer so much. I loved them all. I didn't want to leave any out, so I made sure there was room. That is
yes,
so perfect. I am
it's
the writer. I do
um,
it.
I mean, you know what? That's the fun part. It's all fun, I guess. Writing, creating, storytelling, it's mostly fun,
Yeah.
unless, you have to kind of throw it all out and restart,
Mm.
which
Yeah.
this
Not
book
less fun.
incidentally was one of those where I
Oh, which
wrote
one?
an entire novel and I
Um,
didn't like it. And so I hit delete on the whole thing and I rewrote the whole thing again with different characters and different stories. And I think it was so much better this time. So I get to choose how I want to tell my story, right? We all do as creators.
right? And isn't that true? Like for kids, for everybody, we get to choose how to tell our story, how to do the ones we write, the ones we live. I love that you say that.
Yes.
Beautiful. What do you hope that readers will take away from Some of Us Are Brave?
Title itself comes from again, there's a character, an older character who's giving some kind of advice to these kids at one early point in the story. And he's a very brave character. He used to be a fireman and he went into these burning buildings. And so all of these kids are like, wow, we can never be like you
Yeah.
because you are so brave. And so he says to them, well, some of us are brave, but most of us just right. And I can't remember, I should have looked up before I started talking to you because it's a really cool line, but he says something to the effect of, some of us are brave, but the rest of us are just trying to manage
Right.
whatever and trying to get closer to not being scared. And that's perfectly normal because most people are like that. Very few people are just willing to go into complete danger and
Right.
and do something amazing. So that was kind of what I wanted readers to come away, whatever age you are, to accept that everybody does not have the same level of courage.
Right.
And courage is defined by different things. You know, who
Yes.
decides what courage is? Who decides what's being brave? It's not always a physical thing where, you know, there's a flood or a burning building and you're saving 100 people. That's amazing, but that's not very normal of the average person.
Right.
I certainly couldn't do any of those things. So taking that away from a story like this, it's okay to have fears. We all have fears. And sometimes it's just about doing something regardless of that fear. Even if you have that fear, still going ahead and doing something that's scary to you. That itself is so brave. And just that feeling of accomplishment because you pressed past that fear is something that I want people to take away from this book. And the flood myths. I want you all
Yes.
to take away that our stories transcend any one group, right? We all have such similar stories, such amazing, incredible stories from like thousands of years ago, and they're all so alike. They're all so similar. And flood myths in general are basically about bravery and courage, aren't
Right.
they?
I love that. And I love Some of Us Are Brave so, so much. I hope
Oh,
people will
thank
pick
you.
it up and jump in and read it. I like to go as blind as I can into a book. So I kind of skim the back and I'm like, yep, sounds good. And I love for one, the characters are not larger than life. Like, that they are in a really, really scary situation, but they are ordinary people with very real struggles that I can relate to, at least one of them, that I can very much relate to this
Yeah,
fear that wow, and I can enjoy the story. It is just a great story. It was
thank
one that I
you.
just
Thank you.
went through just really easily, didn't have times where I was just like, I can't right now. I could always read Some of Us
I'm
Are Brave.
glad. I'm
So good.
glad that you said that. It's good to hear. I tried very hard to write a fast-paced story. The chapters are very short. There's like always something going on. And finally, I would like to give a shout out to the city of Houston because it's I dedicate this book to the amazing people of Houston who have more than once gone through terrible floods and hurricanes and just the resilience and the strength of the city and people. I was here with my kids. My kids were much younger when Harvey came through, and just how the community got together and helped each other is just another sign of courage and bravery, you know.
Right.
So I want to always remember that myself and remind other people of our communities that how we can come together when things are
Yes.
difficult.
When you want to see beauty in humanity, this is one of the books that you can read. Yes.
Absolutely.
Sadia, can you tell us what's next for you as a writer?
A lot of things are next.
Yay!
I'm
Ooh.
always writing a lot of different books. I have early readers, the Yasmin books and Ali the Great that are coming out later this year. And my next middle grade novel, which will come out next year, is a murder mystery for
Oh,
kids. So I'm
fun.
excited about that. I'm still working on that.
Okay.
And this fall is going to be a graphic novel called Don't Be Scared, which is horror stories. It's ghost stories. So a little bit
Nice.
of a different thing for me coming up in the next 2 or 3 books.
How fantastic. This is the first graphic novel then for you?
No, this will be my second. My first
Okay.
graphic novel, Saving Sunshine, came out in 2023,
Okay.
and it was well received. It
Yeah.
was a finalist for the Eisner. It got a bunch of
Nice.
awards. But going forward, I'm trying a few different genres,
Okay.
like horror, like
Horror.
mystery. I
Horror is
haven't
what's
written
new.
any of
Okay.
those. Yes. So
Nice.
this is kind of different for me, but no, it is not going to be my first graphic novel.
Well, fantastic. A lot to look forward to. Can you recommend for us a favorite children's book?
Oh my gosh, that is another hard question. You
I
asked hard
know, I know. I
questions.
just, a because there's so many. One of them.
There's so many, and I'm the kind of person who reads a lot and always immediately forgets the title of what I've written.
Yes.
But what is so, we just had the ALA Awards, and this amazing writer, Renee Watson, won the Newbery this year. But
Yeah.
I am recommending her older book. It's
Okay.
called Piecing Me Together, which
Right.
is a YA novel that was one of the first books I read when I was actively trying to become a published author. So it was
Right.
kind of like, not reading just as a reader, but reading as in to get tips and tricks about how to
Right.
write a successful novel. And it was one of my favorite. It's, I think, 2000. It's a bit old. It's not
Okay.
very old, but yeah, Piecing Me Together by Renee Watson.
Lovely. Tell us briefly what it's about.
It's about an African American girl who's growing up poor, but she gets some kind of scholarship or something to go to a rich kid's school. And so it's just, kind of like coming of age, seeing these class differences, seeing how even people who she thought that she would have in common because of race and background are so different from her because of economic levels. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like sad in parts, but also
Okay.
really it's lovely. It's just lovely. Renee writes really well, so
Yes, I read All the Blues in the Sky. Gorgeous, gorgeous book. Heartrending, but gorgeous.
true, true.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Sadia, for taking the time with us today.
For having me, Karen. I'm so excited that I got to talk about Some of Us Are Brave. It's always a bit stressful when a new book is coming
It
out.
is.
So I think our conversation really helped me remember all the good parts that I can talk about to people.
Good, good. So glad.